I'm gonna get cue
And we're
cards.
live.
I'm gonna get
Cue
cue
cards.
cards and just cut them out that are like 3, 2.
You just have someone's face as
One.
each one.
Just some super ghetto countdown, just like all the way. And then like the last one's like, we're live. Anyway, hold on. I'm finna to share this real quick and then we're gonna get started. Oh my god, I can hear us. This is crazy. Sorry, I'm really good at technology sometimes, I promise.
Let's not lie.
I know. I'm the world's worst. Anyway, guys, this is cool. We're going live again. About gas and oil. A lot of people have seen the unfortunate, I can't stress that enough, rise in gas prices. It's not my favorite thing, but we're going to talk about it. And we got a special guest on with us today. I'm literally free. I'm literally, God, I can't even talk, bro. Literally free flowing
You're free something, bro.
Free something while I'm trying to share this video, which will just happen at some point, whatever. So check this out. Guys, we got a cool episode. We're talking about gas and oil today. We have an awesome guest that's coming on that knows a hell of a lot more than we do. And he's one of my childhood friends. I actually haven't seen him in years, but this is what's so cool about technology is getting to reconnect with somebody that has a lot more expertise than I do on the subject. And Micah, we are consumers of the gas industry, so to say. But in this, yeah,
you can't
get in this
away
case,
from it.
exactly. Like it's what is it? Gas, death, and taxes are inevitable in this life.
I mean, didn't we go through? Was it 2 Gulf Wars?
Supposedly? 2 Gulf Wars, yeah, exactly, right.
That's how much gas and oil is important to the United States.
Well, and it's also the 3 things, right? Gas, death, and taxes. The 3 things that when they start rising, people start freaking out, right?
Yep. Yeah, we all got issues with that.
Ooh, so we decided, guys, to bring on somebody that knows a hell of a lot more than us. He's a jack of all trades. His current occupation is a pipe fitter / pipe welder. This guy, when I say is a jack of all trades, he taught me a lot about mixed martial arts. This guy taught me a lot about weightlifting. He is one of the best football players growing up that my city ever saw and that I ever knew. And without further ado, with some dope buzzing noises.
Yeah, okay, we're good.
No, we're good. We'll bring on Tim Smith, ladies and gentlemen, our guest for today. What's up, dude?
Hello. What's going on, guys?
Where are you coming live from right now?
What's that?
Oh, say where are you coming live from right now? Where are you broadcasting from?
The oldest town in Texas, Nacogdoches, Texas.
Nacogdoches, Texas.
Yep, Nacogdoches, Texas. Man, that's their claim to fame, I guess. Oldest town in Texas.
I didn't even know that. There's some history.
Oh yeah. Yeah. SFA, Stephen F. Austin University is here. It's a little small.
Yeah.
I guess you could call it small. Not quite as Austin or San Antonio, but that's bigger than Montgomery or
Montgomery. Yeah. A lot of everyone listening is like, "What's a Montgomery?" right now.
What's a Montgomery?
But anyway, man. So yeah, dude. So
you kind of like blending into one thing.
Yeah. No, it's totally grown. I mean, my parents still live there, but every time I go back, it definitely doesn't look anything like it did when we were growing up.
So, Tim, to start this episode off, 2 high schools. That's it. That seems pretty low for Texas. I feel like don't we have like a?
Yeah, well.
I read that.
Yeah. Well, they went from 4 to 5. And then got 2 high schools in like one classification. They have a lot of people there, dude. It's a big area. That's a big area. But,
cool.
Anyway.
So, Tim, to start this. No, you're good. You're good. Start this episode off. Why don't you kind of tell us, I guess, a little bit of history with you and Pat, since I know you guys have known each other for a while, and how you got into the oil and gas industry.
Well, me and Pat go back to, let's see, what was it, 4th grade? 3rd grade, somewhere in there.
Something like that.
That's a ways back, man. I mean, like, chubby little kids around the playground type stuff, picking on each other. And the funny part was we weren't really friends to begin with. We were kind of not really enemies, but didn't really like each other until I think we kind of got into it one time. And then after that, it was like, hey, I want to come over. Let's play basketball. Play NCAA. Let's play Madden. Whatever. And after that, it was kind of We were never separate after
it's such
that.
a guy thing.
So
some of my greatest friends have been over like potential ass beatings.
Oh, dude, I don't even remember what it was about. I don't even know. It probably had something to do with football or something to do with sports, or my team lost or his team lost, or something to do with that. I don't really remember. That was probably it. We were extremely competitive back then. Still are probably today, but it was a lot worse back then. But yeah, man. So we both grew up in the same town, Montgomery. Went to the same schools until he moved to Colorado when he went to high school, and then came back and moved away again. But
yeah,
always at his house. I pretty much lived there, I think, from like 7th grade to like probably until he moved to Colorado. I mean, I was always there. I was there more than I was at my house, I can tell you that. And you know, Alan and Stacy, I'm sure they're watching. Hi guys, love you guys. Yeah, they're like, you know, kind of, you know, mom and father figures to me. My dad wasn't there. You know, my parents got separated, and so I was always over there. It was just something better to do. It's fun at his house than my house. He had drums and a pool and all that kind of stuff, so it was a lot more entertaining over there. But yeah, man. So let me see. Well, I kind of fell into the oil and gas industry, the refinery work. I kind of built towards it. Done a lot of odds and ends stuff, a lot of different trades, carpentry, stuff like that, and I got into HVAC millwright work, installing, you know, tempered air, dust collection, ventilation, stuff like that, return air, supply air, all kind of stuff. And you know, kind of made my brain tick a little bit. And my cousin is actually the one that got me into refinery work. And it started off as just a better way to make more money. You know, obviously there's more money in the oil and gas industry. Everyone knows that. But yeah, man, I started off, this was probably 4 or 5 years ago, man. Time flies, man. I don't remember when I broke out. I do know it was in Montana. It was my first job ever, was in Montana. And if y'all ever driven past a refinery, you know, seen them from the road, what they look like.
Oh yeah,
I think it's been a few times I've done that.
Dude, the first time you step inside of a refinery, when I say it's overwhelming, it is overwhelming. The smells, the large scale construction that's going on. You got towers that are 300-400 foot tall. You got 200 or 300 foot flares blowing a 60-foot flame out the top of it. You're smelling petroleum, you're smelling gas, you're smelling diesel, kerosene, naphtha, all of it, man. It's all there, and there's a lot of stuff that can kill you in these refineries too. Whenever you refine petroleum products, it puts off gases and stuff like that. So anyway, kind of went on a little rant there. I kind of fell into the oil and gas industry. I never really planned on doing it. I knew how to weld beforehand. Not really fit pipe. Fitting pipe's not really that hard. It's the math and stuff that goes along with it. But it's a lot of fun for me, man. It really makes my mind go. It makes my brain tick. I love it. And it's not that bad. It's pretty good when you're working, when people aren't jacking with it. But
right. Hey Tim, is there a
man
beeping in the background?
Yeah, hold on.
Sorry about that. I just want to make sure people can hear you.
Yeah, no worries.
Well, I zoned out and I couldn't hear it, so it won't do it anymore. I unplugged it, so you're good. My bad.
No, you're good, man. No worries. So, dude, okay, so obviously the rising gas prices is a thing right now. Literally every time I get on social media, it is all over. People are publicizing their dislike for it. Now, what I have seen is there's a ton of false information out there. Not only that, but people making up their own stories. One side says it's all the president's fault. The other side says it's all supply and demand. As somebody that is in the field themselves, like you, pipe fitter, pipe welder, you're involved with gas and oil, you would know more than the common person. How would you address each party? It's specifically the party that says it's all the president's fault, and specifically the party that says it's all supply and demand and spring break.
Well, let's start with the president's fault. he has as much to do with it as the companies themselves do. They don't. The price per gallon of oil or per barrel of oil kind of drives itself. So when there's more demand, the price is going to go up. And whenever things happen, like with Biden canceling a pipeline, well, now you've got fuel. You've got to use trains and 18-wheelers and things to transport these. That drives the cost up.
I don't mean to interrupt you just for a second. I just want to make sure. No, I didn't want to interrupt you too much, but I just want to kind of touch on the Keystone Pipeline, because I've seen both sides where it's like, hey, that being closed down has really affected the oil and gas industry. And then I've seen other side where it's like, hey, it really doesn't, and here's why. So how much has that actually affected, the oil and gas industry? Because that was a big topic, for the last year or so.
It's not it's not affecting it as much as it's going to if they don't continue building it. I can tell you that, because that's going to transport most of your oil from Canada down to the Gulf of Texas, and then some places in between where it stops at refineries, it's refined, it gets put in those trucks, or it gets put in those storage containers or on train, shipped elsewhere. So whenever you cancel a pipeline that is going to transport those things, a lot easier. I mean, you can run a lot of oil through a 42-inch pipe, 50-inch pipe. That's a lot of volume. You can move a lot of that. You can only move so much oil or gas or whatever in a tanker or in a train. And there are limits as far as how much they can put on train and what can be stacked next to what, because they all have chemical properties. They all react with each other. There's different. So there's only a certain amount, a finite amount that they can actually move in trains or in tankers. And there are a lot of fuels too, like jet fuels. You're not going to see those transported in an 18-wheeler, down the freeway. It's just too dangerous most of the time. You're going to see those on trains more likely. You're going to see more gas or propane trucks on the highway. The more highly reactive things are the ones that are going to be on the train. That's why when you see the trains blow up and stuff like that, that's because they have highly reactive fuels and chemicals on those trains that you're not going to get on the highway, just for the simple fact that it's too dangerous. The things like that they're going to drive the price up more so than they are now. Now, anytime you got a spring break coming up or vacation coming up, things like that, they're going to start jacking the prices up. Or a natural disaster, let's say 2 blizzards in Texas in almost the same month. Yeah, they're going to start jacking prices up because it's supply and demand at that point. They're going to run out eventually, and they're allowed to jack those prices up a certain amount. There's not a set amount they can raise the price, but all the gas stations around the area have to be pretty much around the same. They have to be about the same median per gallon.
Right.
So whenever you see people get in trouble for gouging prices, is because, hey man, Joe Blow's selling it for $2.89 a gallon over here. This dude's selling for $4.30 a gallon over here. Because he knows he's going to run out. He's going to make as much money off of that little bit of fuel he's got. So whenever you cancel pipelines, they make products actually that you mix in there that actually allows you to move more volume through the pipes. Don't ask me how it works. I'm not a chemist, but there's a company called Lubrizol that makes these things, and it actually makes the petroleum. It's like a lubricant for a lubricant, basically. But the more you can move through those pipes, the more efficiently you can move through those pipes, the more effective and cost-effective the fuel is going to be.
So,
like I said.
So are you saying, Tim, sorry, real quick, are you saying like, so just because, okay, the Keystone Pipeline's X, which made it more convenient to get fuel to certain places, the new now idea of transporting all this fuel to the other places is counterintuitive because it's going to cost more money to literally transport these things to the locations.
Yep. It costs money to make money. That's exactly right. You have to circumvent what you were going to use. It's going to cost more money. You're using more fuel. You got to pay employees to operate those vehicles or those trains or whatever. You pay the guys to actually load the product in the tanks or whatever. That costs a lot of money. There's hazard pay and stuff like that involved. You've also got all of your permitting and registrations and TxDOT and all, and whatever other state you're going to, you've got to be within regulation on those things. And depending on what,
so there's a big cost basically involved in.
So
I was just saying. So it seems like there's just going to be a big cost upheaval with having to transport everything versus running everything through like a tube.
Yeah,
I know it's layman's terms, but that's what it kind of seems like.
Exactly. It's like it's like the same as the minimum wage argument. You know, minimum wage needs to go up to $15 an hour. That's all fine and good, except now this guy's gonna charge $30 for a hamburger because now he's got to pay this guy $15 an hour. It's the same thing.
Right. Sounds good on paper, but when it comes down to the brass tacks, it just doesn't work out. Right.
Kind of looks like shit. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Not a very good thing. So,
let me ask you a question before you move on. With that in mind, why has there been like a lot of pushback in the oil and gas industry for this pipeline to be, kept open, or did they just know it was a losing battle? If it seems to be that big of a deal, or do they really just don't care because they're going to make money either way?
Well, they're going to make money either way, but it really wasn't a losing. Well, it wasn't until Biden got elected. All their permitting, everything was good to go. They were greenlit. They could, they were about to start work or continue. So that's why there was such a shitstorm when Biden canceled it, because he's literally canceling all these permits from Canada all the way to, the Gulf of Texas, where this is supposed to run to. You're actually all the money and time spent pulling these permits and getting proper permits and getting within code and doing things you're supposed to do, which takes money and time and manpower. You've also got all the material and stuff they had to ship there, the pipe, welding machines, all that stuff. That costs money too. So that's why there was a lot of stink about that. Majority of the reason why people were so pissed about it is because 13,000 people lost their job on that particular pipeline. You're going to have arguments on both sides of it. I can tell you that Biden canceling a pipeline that already had proper permitting, already had staff, was already, it was already well underway. That's a pretty significant hiccup, man. That's not just costing people jobs. Now you're literally screwing with efficiency. Because the more efficient you are, the more cost effective it's going to be. So whenever you literally are axing something that was meant to limit resistance all the way down to the southernmost part of the United States, and most of the oil and stuff that was coming down that pipeline was going to be deported. So instead of us buying oil from overseas, you got people buying oil from us or buying oil from Canada, and we get a cut of that. So now because they did that, you're going to have ships and more trains and more semi trucks and more workers and more stuff. You got to get that petroleum down to the coast, and now guess what? You got to load this stuff on ships. A lot of stuff you don't really want to load on ships because they do have underground pipelines in the ocean.
That brings up an interesting point. So you have the greenhouse gases, the people that want to protect global warming and want to protect the ozone layer from all these harmful things. Well, you causing more, or not you, but the Biden Harris administration causing more and more of transport. Those people have to be losing their minds right now. Especially anybody that's greenhouse gas pro, or anybody that's going for the, global warming aspects that they were trying to say gas emissions hurts. And so now we're causing more transport. And dude, that raises an interesting question. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. You're going to increase emissions significantly. Significantly. How much emissions are you putting off when you've got oil running underground? Absolutely zero. If you go back and look at what a pipeline actually looks like from start to finish, go Google it. It actually it helps the soil, it helps the greenery, it helps the habitat, it helps the wildlife, it helps everything, man. Because there are minerals, and oil, believe it or not, is a natural. It's naturally supposed to be in the ground. So if some oil leaks in the ground or whatever, it's gonna seep down or whatever, as long as it's not getting into your water table or into your lake and stuff like that. I could see that being a problem. But whenever you've got pipelines that are literally running down the middle of the heartland, where there's there are no oceans, none of that stuff, and every pipeline we've seen historically, you've had leaks, you're gonna have your problems, you're gonna have refineries that go boom, stuff like that always happens. But for the most part, the pipelines that we have, and that includes the Keystone XL, were environmentally friendly, much more friendly than having to increase tankers, increase, ships, any kind of cargo vessel to transport this stuff. Trains are horrible on emissions,
So,
man.
Micah,
So
hold on. What are you looking up here?
This is from TC Energy. They're talking about pipelines, how, again, this is, I guess, what they've said, that it's like the safest, most environmentally friendly way to transport oil. There were some other articles that I was seeing, but yet here I have a opposition that says it undermines environmental progress. So why is there so many like polarizing views that, hey, it's one of the ways to transport oil and gas, and then you've got the other side where they say it hurts the environment, which is, I know, was one of the biggest proponents of why they were opposed to the Keystone pipeline. So what evidence is there?
Well,
I mean, I know that you guys will probably know because you guys work on the grounds, but I haven't seen like real evidence that it's one way or the other. And from my standpoint,
it's really not. The only argument that you have one way or the other is that not using pipelines and using cargo vessels is going to increase your carbon, your carbon footprint. It's going to put off more emissions. It's going to be bad for the ozone. It's much worse than a pipeline. It really just depends on, honestly, it's just kind of Democrat or Republican. It just depends on which of the fence you're on, man. Because if you're an oil worker, and I have met some guys that work in the pipeline or work in refineries that are all for it. Hey, all for it. Cool. That's nice, man. But my truck doesn't run on unicorn farts. So there's got to be a way to reduce emissions without completely cutting stuff out. There's no way you can completely do that. So I can see the liberal view, the Democratic side, or it's horrible for the environment, and it's not good for the ground. No, if there's a leak, yeah, that's really bad. It's not good. They also lay down things to prevent those kind of things. They're not just throwing the pipe in the ground, covering it up with dirt. There are safety precautions. They wrap that pipe. It is insulated. So it doesn't corrode, it doesn't bust, it doesn't rust. Whenever you're transporting things via a train or a ship or a truck, you're at the mercy of the operator or things that are out of your control, like a tire blowing
That's
out,
another that's another huge point. How many more, because of how the transportation is now going to be set up, where you have all these, because like you were saying earlier, we're still going to start subbing out the oil to make a tax off of it. Well, how many ships now are going to be coming here trying to get that stuff? How many oil leaks are there? I mean, if I'm not mistaken, you have Pearl Harbor that is still emitting oil out of ships from 1941, so now we're risking that,
Yeah. Deepwater Horizon, that site is still leaking oil to this day. Still, to this day, it still leaks oil, just like Pearl Harbor. And it's a little worse, actually. And that's a part of it, man. Whenever you're trying to put that stuff in the water, or, the pipelines under the ocean and stuff like that are a lot less prevalent. There's not as many of them as there are across the country because, landlocked is a lot easier. It's easier to work on land than it is in water. That's all fine.
right?
But anytime you're taking unnecessary risks, putting stuff in the water, putting stuff on the road, handling things more times than you need to, it's just unnecessary, and that's when bad things happen. And like I said, that's human error. You're leaving the safe transport of that product, whatever it is, naphtha, butane, gasoline, diesel. You're leaving all of that on the operator. Doesn't matter how good that guy is. He may have never had a wreck in 40 years. When he woke up that one morning and Apples, he came across the lane, ran him off the road, and now we've got an explosion on I-45. It's all human error at this point. When you start getting rid of pipelines would be like the automated, like a robot kind of. I guess.
So
if the humans, it's unnecessary.
Yeah. So if I can break down what you're saying, is we kind of just lowered the odds of catastrophic stuff happening in transit. We've just lowered the odds. When they used to be a lot higher and harder to happen, now we've just lowered them because it'll be more frequency, more transport. That's interesting, man. I don't think anybody's talking about that.
I guarantee you over the next year, if you were to Google how many petroleum 18-wheelers have gotten in a wreck versus a year ago or 2 years ago, whenever you had pipelines running full swing. You know, when you're taking error away from human, you know, the human error is completely out of it at that point, other than the guys installing the pipelines. If you looked at that, I'd say in another year, if it keeps continuing this way, you're going to see a pretty good uptick in wrecks and spills. We just had, 2 trains not even a month ago that wrecked, derailed, and blew up.
100%. No one's talking about that either, right? The media has been super quiet about that shit. Yeah.
So, you know, it's you know, they're all for this Green New Deal, and you know, everything got to be green by 2040 or whatever the fuck they're talking about. Well, congratulations, dipshit. You just increased the emissions because you canceled pipelines, because you wanted to appease a small demographic of people that you preached to whenever you were running for office. So you put 13,000 people plus people out of work, and it affects ripples to this too, man. It's not just pipeliners. The refinery side of all this has slowed way down too. Way down. It's starting to pick up a little bit, only because these refineries and some of these places are starting to skirt around their Green New Deal bullshit. You know, they're starting to go more to converting their diesel, you know, their tractor diesel into green diesel, biodiesel. So they're converting all these refineries into biodiesel refineries. So they're actually getting money from the government to do it. So it's a loophole. I mean, they had a good lawyer, obviously. They found a loophole, they're using it, they're exploiting it, and that's good. Put on them, man. It keeps a lot of people busy, but at the same time, it's not booming like it was 2 years ago when Trump was in office, man. Or a year ago, man. I stayed booked up 2.5 years doing this.
So
you know,
you just made me think of one thing, Micah. You didn't do a quick Google search on this. California, whoever the governor is there, we always talk about him. For some reason, I'm brain farting. But one of the governor there was talking about eliminating fossil fuels completely in California. I want to say around like 2049, something like that. In the next 20 years, was talking about eliminating gas, fossil fuels, and everything would be run on electric cars. Now, my thing is, when I think about that, while he's looking that up, when I think about that, what comes to mind for me is, do you think Biden Xing the Keystone Pipeline out is setting up the precedent for more focus on electric vehicles?
I think he's trying to work toward that. And even, have you heard anything about the mileage tax he's trying to come up with?
Gavin Newsom.
Yeah. Biden is trying to introduce a tax that would literally tax based on how much you drive. So I drive an F-250, a diesel. I drive a lot, man. I'm on the road a lot. I drive a lot. So for me and the guys that work in the same industry, man, that's a bunch of bullshit. You're literally going to tax me because I drive more frequently than Pat. You know, I drive more frequently than Mika does. Doesn't necessarily mean that I'm harming the environment more than somebody else is. It just means that, you know, hey, I'm greedy. I'm a greedy little fuck, and I'm going to try to get some more money out of your pocket. And at the same time, all that Green New Deal crap and all the electric cars and all that stuff and the Tesla, it's fast, and it goes 0 to 60 in 2 point whatever seconds, and you know, that's all fine and good. Where do you think the tires come from? Where do you think the lubricant that goes inside these gear housings comes from? Where do you think the
comes from Elon Musk's house?
Your fancy little cable that plugs it in. Where do you think that comes from?
So that's a good transition.
All this stuff in his basement.
Right. Yeah. I don't doubt it. That's a good transition, because one of the questions I had here was with the impact of oil and gas. Do you think, or I guess, how much of an impact has it affected other industries, like you mentioned? Like, for instance, right now, the housing market is probably the worst it's ever been, just because prices are going through the roof because lumber and steel is so damn expensive. So what do you think that some of the other industries that oil and gas is going to be impacting?
Man, honestly, dude, you're going to see a lot of manufacturing companies, I mean, manufacture a lot of things from plastic products to dental floss. Because you don't really realize how much petroleum products or what comes from it. There's a lot of stuff, man. So I would say a lot of your textiles and manufacturing, I think, is going to see a major decrease, man. They're going to go way down. I mean, it's going to cost more money to ship things, for one, just because of the increased fuel prices, because you cancel the pipeline. So there's cause and effect right there, number one. And then you've got supply like your plastics, your threads, your rubbers, latex, all that stuff. All of anything that is an offshoot of a petroleum product, like plastic, rubber, any of that stuff, your textiles, you're going to see oil paints, things like that. You're going to see those things start to be affected a little bit by it. You're going to start seeing tire prices and stuff go up. Paint even. You're going to start seeing paint prices go up.
Well, I think you could make I think you could make a case that everything would be going up, because with the gas prices going to surge, and with all this more transporting and the potential wrecks and ships coming over and Evergreen getting stuck in the middle of a canal and shipments being delayed. I mean, I think you're just going to see more traffic. You're going to see more supply and demand. You're going to see the rising in prices. What that leads to is, Texas, we went through a pretty interesting experiment. So the freeze over, right? It was a 4 to a week thing. Shipments were delayed all over.
Long.
Yeah, it felt like eternity, but it was only a week, right? Yeah, and so that happened. Which, mind you, the power grid was 4 minutes away from completely failing in Texas. That's another story. But still, we had a week surge where shipments were delayed, where restaurants couldn't operate, where HEBs were like, sorry, man, we're out of stock until we can get these trucks here. That's interesting. And why? Because now we're talking about a nationwide thing, and we're not talking about a freeze. We're talking about the gas going up so high that distribution is going to cost more, that a pair of pants is going to cost more, because how is it going to get to you if they can't afford it to get to you? So, I mean, this doesn't just affect, and you're right, Tim, and go back to your point, is it doesn't just affect the people in the oil industry. This affects everybody, because petroleum products and gas and oil is what this country runs on. Yeah.
Well, even your energy, your green energy, where do you think that comes from? Those windmills are not that efficient. You're not getting all that energy from a windmill, which they are not renewable. You cannot recycle those windmills. When they break, they're fucked. That's it. They go and bury them underground. That's it. They put them in a landfill, and that's it. And it's because it's better for the environment just bury them versus burning them, because they're made of fiberglass, which has got gel coat, resin, all kind of polymers in it. Really, really bad shit. So, and that's another thing. They're focusing more or less on the oil and gas industry, because it's polarizing. It's such a industry. What about your other industrial jobs, like fiberglass and your textiles? That stuff that it's putting off some emissions too. And some of that stuff, I argue, is actually worse than fossil fuels. But back to what I was saying, where do you think your electricity comes from? Where do you think the electricity comes to power that Tesla, that little charging station? There's not a little dude on a bicycle inside there, pedaling, let me get your car charged up. Dude, that shit comes downstream from a refinery or from a power plant where they use propane to create steam, which creates electricity by spinning generators. So it all feeds off of itself, man. You can't completely get rid of fossil fuels. You're an idiot unless you figure out how to repurpose water. I don't see a way around that, man. That's an ignorant argument so obviously AOC is pretty ignorant, but for any one of them to make.
Yeah, she's a little quiet right now.
Yeah, she is. I was just about to say she's very quiet these days. What's going on with her?
Oh yeah.
What were you gonna say, Micah?
I blanked. I blanked on it now.
Oh, no worries. I have a question to ask Tim. Tim, so obviously during the beginning, think back to the beginning of the pandemic. I know it seems like an eternity ago, because gosh, it just seemed like it was never ending, right? We're starting to come on the come up. Places are opening up more. Things are going up, and now we have a new president, obviously. So what was the industry like in gas and oil like during Trump's administration as opposed to Biden's?
Oh, dude, booming, man. Night and day difference. Even the hourly wages they were paying was higher.
Oh, so just the pay in general.
Refineries weren't getting hit as hard. The pay in general was higher whenever Trump was in office, just because the refineries could pay more because they weren't having to pay more for all this other bullshit they're having to do. You know, a loss of money because they're not making as much petroleum product. They're not moving as much of it because the pipelines getting shut down or being restricted. And like I said, from the very moment Trump was elected, dude, it was booming. Even the stock market. It's all circular, man. It all feeds off of itself.
I mean,
but with Biden,
all I can say is that $20 got me a lot farther when Donnie T was in office.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, dude. I mean, what diesel was like $2 a gallon. Now it's $3 a gallon.
I just saw it for $3 today. Yep.
Yeah. And it varies all across the country, but it was almost immediate whenever he got elected. The night of the election, the very next day, the price started creeping up a little bit, and it was only 2 or 3 cents here, 5 cents here, and then you see a 15-cent jump, and then another 15-cent jump, and now here we are at $3 a gallon. Trump did the opposite of that. He took it from a $4 a gallon Obama administration in California, and literally had, I think, the diesel was on the day. At the height of Obama's term, I think you might could Google it. I think the peak price of diesel, the highest price per gallon, I think was in California. I think it was like almost $5 a gallon. It was outrageous.
Yeah, I did some research today on the price of crude oil. And when Obama was in office, they were going for like the price of crude oil right now. I want to say it's floating anywhere around $59 to $61. And when Obama was in office, it was at $100 a barrel in 2008. Yeah.
Gouging. Yeah. Do you know why?
No.
Shows here about 546 or 549.
Do what?
That was in 2012. The peak was
Yeah. Astronomically high. I knew it was something up there. The reason why Obama's price per barrel was way more, almost double what Trump's was, is because Obama was importing petroleum. We were not standalone petroleum producers. We weren't the greatest producers of petroleum products or petroleum in general in the world. Back then, I think that was Abu Dhabi and what's the other country? I forget.
Dubai.
They were the ones that were, Dubai. So what does Trump do when he gets in office? He gets rid of ISIS, turns them into was, blows them up, and takes everybody's oil, buys all the fucking oil off of Saudi. So now guess what? We've got all the oil. Y'all are buying all this shit from us. And now because of that, it's supply and demand for y'all. Everyone that lives here, well, guess what? It's coming from here. It's going to be cheaper. When you've got a surplus of something, it's always going to be cheaper than having to play the middleman type thing, if you will. Having to, you got to buy the product from overseas, have it shipped here, then you got to refine the shit, then you can sell it. So you're basically a second-hand salesman at that point. You're importing fuel that you actually produce here, that you can actually drill for here. But you don't want to because fracking's bad. And you're going to import everything overseas and price gouge shit out of people. That was Obama's, way of thinking. And Biden is the same way. He's I wouldn't say he's Obama 3.0, but he's.
Well, you can make a strong argument, if not a factual one, that he was his vice president. So it's the same. It's literally the same cabinet that took over.
So how was the oil and gas industry during COVID?
Just a continuation.
Yeah.
How was the oil and gas industry during COVID?
We didn't really see. Yeah, we didn't see a decrease in hours or really anything. The only issue that we had was the whole wear a mask, quarantine, stay 6 feet apart, can't leave your room to go anywhere. I was in St. Croix whenever all this shit happened, man. And I was in men camp over there. And, dude, they had us on lockdown. The only thing we could do was go to work and go back to our room. And they would bring us food and stuff. So really, the work didn't slow down. The thing that fucked with us the most was just the stupid ass protocols. Whether I say stupid ass, I mean they're there for a reason. You know, these things are written in blood for a reason. But it's absolutely infuriating whenever all you want to do is go to the store and get a fucking bottle of water. But you can't do that because you may be a carrier. So that was about the biggest issue we had. We didn't see a reduction in work. Well, I take that back. In the Houston area, Baytown, Deer Park, those areas, they did have massive layoffs down there. I forgot about that. So it did affect some regions of the country, and it really just depended on what stage they were in, their turnaround or the construction of that job, what they were actually doing. If it was a capital project or if it was a turnaround or a new construction job, it really just depended. But there were mass layoffs. I know for a fact down in the Gulf of Texas, really all your coastal cities, for the most part, down around Louisiana, Houston, Baytown, Deer Park, all the way down to really Alabama and Georgia, they had mass layoffs over there because of it. Because they were afraid people were going to start getting sick or people start dying or whatever. They didn't really know what to deal with. It was still relatively new, so all they knew was, hey man, get the fuck out of here. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. You gotta get out of here. So, and that really
right.
We're actually kind of seeing the benefit of that right now because of all the work that we had when COVID hit got pushed off. So any project that was not currently started, and even some of them got scrapped, pushed them all. So a job that was supposed to be in October, November, December of last year got pushed to May of this year. So now what you're starting to see is a lack of employees in the refinery side because of all the work that got pushed to this year.
That was gonna be my next question. Was there any like shutdowns of refineries?
Yeah, there wasn't. I mean, they had their core guys there, their operators to run everything, their day-to-day operation. But there were a few. I want to say there was 3. It was Shell. There was a Shell in Geismar, Louisiana. That shut down completely. They just closed the doors, shut down completely. I think there was 2 more of them. Actually, one of them I'm actually out to go next week to go do a revamp on it. They shut it down. It was a Sinclair up in Wyoming, Cheyenne, Wyoming, and they're actually got their government grants or whatever. They're about to convert that entire refinery into a green biodiesel facility. So yeah, they actually broke one off in Biden's ass on that deal. But like I said, there was a lot of jobs that got pushed, and now because of that, there's not enough people to fill these jobs on a lot of them. And now you're starting to see, and along with that, there's other things. There's a ripple effect to that too. Now because you've got so many jobs going on and so much work, and you don't have enough people to fill these spots. Well, now maybe you're giving that pipe fitting job or that boiler making job to Tommy over there that doesn't know the first thing about doing a bolt up, doesn't know the first thing about fitting pipe. But we needed warm bodies in here because these companies literally get paid by the refineries for you to be at work. So they get so bent out of shape when you don't come to work because they don't get paid for that. And whatever, they're paying me $45 an hour, but they're charging $160 an hour. So I'm starting to see a lot of that and a lot of shoddy craftsmanship because they're just hiring people because they have to, because the volume of work going on right now is just too high. There's just too much work and not enough good hands.
Going back to just what I was saying before was like the difference from the Trump administration to the Biden administration in being in gas and oil. So there's a big paramount difference, right? But you said you started off something that I thought was really interesting. You said the pay was better under Obama. So not only are people getting laid off, but their pay is getting doxed too. People are getting paid substantially less now.
Well, I'll just give you a big fat for instance. September this last year, I went up to work in Montana at ExxonMobil in Billings. that same plant 2 or 3 years ago, really at the heart of the Trump administration, the same exact work, the same hours, the same everything, was paying, I think it was a 46 or 48 dollars an hour and 140 a day per diem, and that was 7/12s, 13 days on, 1 day off. So you'd have, and it was a 7-day sub, so you didn't have to go to work to get your per diem; you got it automatically.
Dang.
I went there this last September, and they had cut even from what I was told on the phone, when they called me to go up there, the price I was given was $2 or $3 different than what it was when I actually got up there. They had actually cut the hourly rate by like $6 or $8 an hour from the last turnaround they did there. The last one the company I worked for was there, and they cut per diem by $40 a day, and that's just because ExxonMobil ain't making no money right now, because you got Papa Joe, putting the brake on every damn thing, trying to slap restrictions on everybody, trying to, using the EPA as his little fucking bulldog, pushing people around. Hey man, you got this restriction now. Hey, you also got this restriction. Hey, and if this happens, you got to do this. And if you're going to use this product or that, or if Tracy doesn't take the shit in 20 minutes, you're going to have to, you got to take this precaution. So he's starting to jack with people in a way that, or these refineries anyway, and it's like I said, it's a ripple effect, man. You're going to have all of that trickle down, all the way down, and a lot of that too is some of these jobs were understaffed because they couldn't afford to hire all the craftsmen that they needed. So then you've got overworked employees, you got long hours, and you're not getting as much work done as you should because you don't have the manpower to do it, because Exxon can't pay what they should be able to pay, because Joe Biden and his damn administration is starting to put the screws to the oil and gas industry. Pretty fucky, dude.
Wow.
It sucks.
Interesting.
So it sounds like the oil and gas industry has had a bad rep. Because, I mean, if you think about it over the last, let's say, I don't know, 10, 15 years, everyone's made them out to be bad guys. Like, you guys are, killing the earth and all this kind of stuff. But, I mean, really comes down to it. Like, you guys are trying to do the best you can. And it's really the part of the backbone of America and getting everything done. I mean, I was even thinking back. So during like COVID last year, my brother-in-law, he works as a conductor for the railroad. And his job hours got cut, I mean, a ton, to the point where he was worried he'd have to go look for another industry just because, they weren't getting a lot of train cars full of oil and gas to transport. So, I mean, I hear what you're saying. Like, everything is trickling down, and I don't think people realize that, and they don't actually do the research. Like, I didn't know just till today. Like, I didn't know that pipelines were probably a lot safer than any other methods of transport.
Yeah. There's literally, there's a million ways to skin a cat, but like I said, and it's going to trickle down even further than just the immediate, people right there at the job, or going to directly affect them right there. It's going to come, it's going to trickle all the way down. So not only are the guys working at the plant, their quality of life is a little less, but let's be honest, that's good money, regardless. No one bitch about that kind of money. But when you're comparing apples to oranges, there's a significant difference, and it does make a difference on your paycheck. And the reason they pay like that is because, dude, you're literally working on a bomb every day. You're working on something that could blow up if the smallest thing happens. But like you said, yes, every place I've ever been, the refinery, the companies, everyone has bent over backwards to make sure the EPA isn't down their throat about something. So they're not, put it to you this way. I was in Longview, Texas, at Eastern Petrochemical. If there was more than a gallon of any product that they were producing there, so whether it was any kind of chemical, petroleum, gas, naphtha, butane, propane, any one of the, well, obviously not propane, that's a gas, but if more than a gallon of that liquid got on the ground in any spot, they had to immediately suspend all hot work. You were not allowed to use hot work anymore. They got all the chem teams out there to address it, got it cleaned up, They don't even just put a kitty litter on it to clean it up. They literally get a freaking backhoe out there and scoop it out, get the dirt out of there, and get rid of it. It goes to a disposal place. And then that particular incident is then reported to the EPA. They know about it. Hey, man, on May 3rd, 2021, we spilled approximately 1.7 gallons of number 2 diesel. Okay, they're literally self-reporting and holding their self in check. And when you've got Biden and the EPA and all these other fuckers that want to act like, oh, they're out there polluting the ocean and they're fucking up all the good soil and everything and causing more emissions. Dude, who literally had any idea what these refineries go through to make sure that they are within regulation. And there's not very much grace, dude, either. I mean, it's pretty finite. You don't have, I think, within a certain amount of percentage to be close to it. Otherwise, you're going to get slapped with a heavy fine. That job I was on in St. Croix, that refinery over there got shut down by Biden over emissions concerns. They just spent $10.6 billion revamping that place, get it up and going, circumventing all that bullshit. And Biden, I think it was, it was like right at the beginning of their operations, they shut it down. He killed it. They just got off that island. All the contractors just left. They had opened up to run full tilt, and Biden shut them down.
I'm trying to find out, like, because
in St. Croix.
Well, it seems to me like there's this almost like this attack on oil, right? Because his first day in office, obviously it was priority. First day in office, he X's that Keystone Pipeline.
Yeah.
He didn't go after any. He was like, bro, this thing is done. This gas and oil thing. And then from hearing what you saw in the refinery, $10.6 billion out in LaCroix, the Virgin Islands, and then seeing how the cuts are, seeing all these new things, seeing that his drive is, it seems to me like a person from the outside, just looking at this from through the glass. It seems to me now that, with Gavin Newsom telling people that in California, fossil fuels are going to be non-existent in X amount of years, and we're going to be switching to electric with the rise of Tesla and stuff. With all that shit going on, what it leads me to believe is that there is this attack on fossil fuels. There is this attack on gas and oil, and there is the push, the initiative for electric vehicles. That's what it seems like to me. It seems like he's trying to dox, hurt in any way, even Uber drivers and people that drive more than the average person, going to tax them. So there's no incentive to drive your fossil fuels and pump gas as much as you would. It seems to me like an outsider that there's an attack on gas and oil.
Which is kind of interesting, just because, like, I was listening to this podcast and they were talking about Teslas and the batteries. Like, one, it takes a lot of energy to create those batteries. It's not like they just make it out of thin air. And then secondly, when those batteries are useless, like, there's really no good. Yeah, there's really no good way to recycle those either. So then you've still got more, waste, more pollution. And if you don't have a safe way to dispose of them, how much better really is it? So to me, it's like, unless people are going to come up with a really good solution of, like, one, how to create them with a little energy usage and also disposing of it when it's done for, I mean, I don't see a reason why we shouldn't still focus on oil and gas, and hopefully maybe 100 years we'll figure out something else that'll supplement it. But until then, we got to work with what we got.
I mean, they want to clean up the emissions and help the environment or whatever. I'm all for that, dude. That's all fine and good. I'm not saying like there's not there's never going to be a cleaner solution. I'm not saying that at all. There will be. Eventually there will be, whether it's in a dystopian future, 200 years from now, or in 40 years somehow they pull the rabbit out of the hat and get us to net zero carbon by 2050. Doubt it. But you'll never completely get rid of fossil fuels and petroleum products. You just can't. There's no way. Those wind turbines in West Texas, Oklahoma, all over all across your heartland where you got the Great Lakes, the lubricants and the belt systems and all the stuff that powers that turbine, it's all petroleum based. And that lubricant that goes inside of that motor is highly flammable, very highly flammable. You can look up videos of them windmills getting caught on fire. It's ugly. when they come apart, dude, they come the fuck apart. Like it's
Yeah.
And like I said, you cannot recycle that. There is no repurpose on this planet for those windmills. It's all made out of fiberglass. You can't do dick with it other than bury it, because burning it off would be absolutely horrible for the ozone. You want to talk about bad emissions? That's some bad shit there, dude. That's really bad. Nothing.
Yeah.
Like
oil
and gas.
Yeah, dude. I mean, this is a learning curve for me. I mean, like just from talking to you in this hour, my mind has sparked to different things. Now I'm on this thing that a gas and oil's being attacked. Now I'm on this thing that like wind turbines, like exactly what happened to Texas in the freeze could initially happen, not as far as the freeze over, but the delays in shipments and how people were affected due to not getting the supplies they needed could be a nationwide thing, with not just the gas and oil thing being affected, but the nation as a whole. So my question to you, Tim, is like on a pie chart, right? So say you got a pie chart in front of you. I want you to percentile what the effects are going to be as far as like, okay, so how much it affected America, right? So the Keystone Pipeline gets X'd. I want you to break down what people think that it's supply and demand. People think that it's all Biden. On a pie chart in front of you, how would you rank it? How much would you rank Biden's involvement in what he's doing now as far as the rising gas prices? And how much would you rank the supply and demand if you had a pie chart in front of you? Is it completely 50-50? Or are we talking different here from somebody that's in the field himself?
I would say situationally, it's about 85% Biden's fault and about 15% supply and demand. But on the other side of that, it could be 85% supply and demand and 15% Biden's fault. Considering he still was not completely finished yet. So it wasn't flowing petroleum. So from that standpoint, he didn't really fuck that up. He just canceled something that was a good part of the way completed, that was going to significantly reduce how we transport petroleum products. But by doing that, he directly drove the price up for supply and demand, because now we're not energy dependent like we were with Trump. He is undoing everything Trump did. So eventually we're going to be energy dependent on probably China or Saudi Arabia or one of those places, because he's going to start sending all of our oil back over there like he's already doing. That's why you're seeing the price of oil go up. The price of a gallon of barrel, or the barrel of oil is going up, because he's sending it overseas. And now guess what? Hey man, we need some of that back. You got to buy it back from him for a premium, because you're sending shit over there. And that was the major thing about North American oil pipelines, because you're getting Canadian oil transported straight down the middle of the United States, branching off, going east and west, and then coming all the way down to south to its port hub, where you ship that oil across seas, or to the refineries to do different things there. Because whenever you're producing your own oil, when you're fracking and you're making your own oil, you're producing your own gas, your own diesel, you're not buying it from a country across the ocean. You are 100% energy independent, because it is much cheaper for you to sell something that you're making versus something that you've got to buy and mark it up a percentage in order for you to make any kind of money off of it.
Well, me not trying to get conspiratorial here, but look no further to his son being involved in foreign affairs over there. We all know about the Ukraine stuff. So why would it be, and I'm just speaking to the general listener, why would it be above to say, or too far to say, that Biden doesn't have foreign ties, that Biden isn't working on foreign, like a foreign something over there, foreign ties, I could say. I mean, a strong argument can be made just based off of his own son's actions that the guy has probably foreign affairs at heart more than American affairs, based on how he's operating gas and oil.
It lines his pocket.
You're right. Well, I mean, it clearly lined his sons in Ukraine, So it's like,
and his as well. Yeah.
It definitely could be it, but I think one thing to keep in mind too is like when we're talking about the political spectrum over the last like 20, 30 years, you know, the right side's been more pro, you know, let's have our own oil, and the left side's been against it for a myriad of reasons. So,
Well, that's a great
and
question as to like why would they be against it? Why would they be against
well,
anything that's generated from the source?
right, but
You know,
I
or
guess what I'm getting at is like, you know, they've been trying to push this new Green Deal in some way, shape, or form for the last, like, let's say 10, 20 years. So I think everything's just gotten built up to the point now where it's like we're having so many extremes. I think when Trump took office, you know, he had his own extreme where it was beneficial to the oil and gas industry and other industries. And I think now everything's gotten so fireized or whatever word you want to use that they're like, oh, what's to do the most extreme? So now it's like, yeah, we're gonna cancel the pipeline, we're gonna do all this kind of stuff because we can. I think
it
that's
could
one.
be that. It
Well,
could be column A, column B. I mean, it could be both of those, you know, but I think, yeah,
I
Mike
mean,
has got a valid point.
I
Yeah.
definitely think, you know, like if he's gonna take advantage of everything to line his pockets, yeah, he's gonna do it. I mean, most politicians are gonna do that.
oh yeah.
But I think that the columns have just gotten so rised up over the last 20 years that now we're at a peaking point where it's like, can you believe they just did that? Well, yeah. I mean, of course. That's
Well,
just my
nothing should surprise anybody at this point. I mean, we just went through a deadly virus
no.
with on the brink of civil war, and now it's like 2021 is just literally the little brother of 2020, right? So no, I mean, nothing should surprise us at this point. That's why I don't rule anything out. Like I'm like, well, you know, look what Hunter Biden's son did. You know, and that's his father. Who did he learn those things from? He didn't just go to Ukraine. I mean, come on. You think the guy just, you know, got on a train or a flight and hopped over and was like, well, all of a sudden I'm in foreign affairs over here.
But this
And
is
then,
really, really concerned though, just because like my wife and I are trying to have a house built, and we keep getting told from all these builders like, hey, you know, steel and lumber is going through the roof. It might start going down, you know, in June or July, but there's no guarantee. And if we're starting to see that, you know, we're still having a huge issue with supply and demand, you know, we can't get things transported fast enough or whatever it is, who's to say that's not going to keep going up?
well, I think a huge thing here, man. I think a huge thing that
it comes right back to the energy part, like I was saying, oil and gas, everything. There are ripple effects, like the lumber and steel industries, man. What do you think they use to melt that steel down? What do you think they use to mill that lumber? What do you think runs that bark stripper or whatever they call it? It pulls all the bark off the logs and it saws it in half. That's electricity run by oil and gas. So, and the major thing that you're seeing the difference between Trump and Biden is Trump was a businessman. He understood good business, and he knew what bad business was. Biden is just trying to make everybody happy. He just wants to keep his commitments. He wants to keep his promises so that, you know, they keep him in power. Don't do whatever the Clintons do to people. So, you know, it's a lot of, I think with Biden, it's his family and his personal interest, he's got those interests at heart, more so than the Commonwealth of the United States of America or anybody else for that matter, even Kamala Harris. You know, whereas Trump understood good business, not so much politics side of it, which is why I loved him so much. He was a businessman. You know, why was gas prices so high when Obama was here? Oh, he was importing a lot of oil, a lot of petroleum products. How much was it per gallon? Oh man. Okay, we're not doing that anymore. I'm just gonna buy the shit. I'm not so much money at them they can't say no. And if they say no, I'm just gonna be like, okay, well I'm taking it anyway. Because he understood good business. Because why would you continue to be price gouged by a country that hates your guts? Why would you keep doing business with him? Because it has your personal interest at heart. You know, that is the more appeasing goal for them to get to. So I'm gonna make myself rich and fuck everybody else. I don't care how much they pay per gallon for gas. I don't care how much the cost of a gallon or a barrel of oil is. It doesn't matter to me. I'm rich. I don't pay for that shit anyway.
I think like
it does matter to.
I think like policies aside, man, I think there's such a disconnect from the modern or just average civilian to the politician. They're so disassociated from normal life, from what normal people have to go through, let alone a 47-year politician in Joe Biden. You know, I think there's just such a disconnect.
Dick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like that aside, like I think there's just such a disconnect when you've been at Capitol Hill, you've been in Washington D.C. for 47 years. Why are you going to give two shits about the average civilian? Because you forgot what it was like to live that life. Your kids haven't had to live that life. 47 years as a politician. Your colleagues don't live that life. Everyone you surround yourself with is not the average citizen. And the last person, and then Trump coming in, who was not a career politician. He was just a businessman that won a popularity contest and comes in office, and he drives you batshit crazy. So where the first thing you do as a president is you don't reinstate Obamacare. You don't go after all of the other things. You X the Keystone Pipeline and kill thousands of jobs on your first day. That was your number one goal.
Yep.
That's a weird thing to me because it kind of came out of nowhere. It was like,
50 plus executive orders. That's not a democracy, man. That's a dictatorship. You're trying to force your shit down people's throats for your own good. And you're absolutely right. They don't sympathize with everyday people, with you or me or Mika. They don't have to do things like we do every day. They don't have to go get fuel. They don't have to get out of their car and get gas. They don't have to go inside the gas station to get anything to drink. They don't have to go in the grocery store to buy food. They don't have to change their oil. They don't have to pay for their oil changes. They don't have to do that shit. They never see that stuff. And career politicians are not supposed to be millionaires. They're millionaires because they make deals with foreign countries with things like oil and petroleum products, uranium, things like that, to line their own pockets.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that
all of our uranium supply.
Yeah, no, I think we all agree there's a huge disconnect, and unfortunately, man, it sucks to see that because there's so much of a trickle down. I mean, to the point where, like, I was talking to my brother, like, because of the cost of housing, he was telling me, like, he doesn't think that his generation is going to be able to afford a house. Just because a house that was maybe $150,000 3 years ago is now almost $300,000. So it's just crazy to see there's the trickle on that. But to start wrapping this up, one of my last questions to you is, how do you think things are going to be for the next, let's say, 2-3 years with oil and gas? Do you see things getting worse? Do you see things just, riding it out and hoping some change comes down the line in some shape or form? What do you think?
I think we're going to see a swing in the Senate. That's going to help with those things. To kind of limit the bullshit that they can throw at us. I think it's going to kind of stabilize as far as the work goes, because a lot of these places are going to start doing what they've got to do to stay operating, keep running. You can't completely phase out gas and oil. You can't. It's impossible. You can't do it. And so you find something else that's as valuable that you can do, as versatile you can do these things with. So I think it'll be all hot and heavy for a little bit, and it's going to kind of taper off. It's going to kind of level off a little bit, especially if things change in the Senate. I think he's going to try to force, this administration is going to try to enforce more and more and more of these Green New Deal bullshit rules and regulations and things. But I think everyone will adapt and overcome as far as that goes. The gas prices, they're probably going to keep climbing, and until the end of summer, more than likely, unless something significant happens. We don't see anything happening that's going to change that at the moment. I do not believe that the gas prices are going to get back down as low as they were during Trump's administration. I just don't see it. It's not going to happen, especially whenever you're starting to back off of all your fracking and things like that makes you energy independent. Now you start having to rely on people. And another thing that's going to affect that too is what he decides to do with China. Is he going to send our jobs back over there? Is he going to get back in their hip pocket? What's the deal with that? Because that's going to drive the economy. That's going to affect this too. You got inflation that's going to have a lot to do with it, and then you've got the minimum wage that they're trying to get passed, pushed through, and all that. It's all going to kind of tie in, and it's going to kind of be, I think it's going to be a little bit of a clusterfuck for a little bit, but I think they're playing out as time goes on, and hopefully in 3 years we can flush this turd and get a better one. But
right.
So to answer your question, I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. But I think it's going to kind of just level out, and everyone's going to kind of get used to the suck. They'll just embrace the suck, and just look forward to better days. You know, and you'll see some fluctuation in prices and stuff like that, but I don't think it's going to be anything like ridiculous. California maybe, but not here.
Got it. Pat, you got any questions?
No, I'm saying no. It's just a interesting time. So I think what makes it so crazy, and this is just me, but I think what makes it so crazy is that before this pandemic, before everything that we know as 2020 being what 2020 was, it was good before then. The gas was super low, economy was booming, everything seemed to be in order, and then all of a sudden it took this life-threatening virus, call it what you will, to take it all away, and things haven't been the same since, and things you can make a case have gotten progressively worse. And at the all-time low of journalism, you don't know who to trust, which is exactly one reason we started this podcast, but it's exactly why you, Tim Smith, are on this show, is because we wanted to talk to somebody that's in the field, not some fucking reporter that's just talking to us off a teleprompter, somebody that's actually living and breathing this industry and how it's affected him and his life before Biden was in there, and life before and after the Keystone Pipeline. And so, no, I think that's just what hits it hardcore. But I think to go off of what you're saying, that it's going to get worse before it gets better. I mean, that's kind of the best news we've heard, because I mean, it's just gotten progressively worse. We don't know when it's going to stop going, but if there's better days ahead, that's hope is everything. Right. And with everything we discussed on here, it could be very easy to make the case that, we're headed for some dark shit. But there is, as far as transportation and all the things that could go wrong with it, no one wants to see, no one's checkbook is happy paying for $4, $5. What was it? Obama's high was $5.49. No one wants to see that, and we haven't seen that in years. And now that it's climbing up to that, when it was $1.23 in my area back in December, no one wants to see that. So it makes for interesting times, man. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing your expertise.
Man. It's been a great eye opener. I mean, there's some cool stuff that I really didn't know, and now it makes me wonder all the research that people have put out compared to someone who's actually living it and knows how it actually trickles down and not just generalizing things.
Right.
So yeah, appreciate it, man.
Right.
Anything you want to say, Tim, before we
have me on, guys? Oh man, I love those podcasts. I love what y'all do, man. It's good conversations, entertaining. I pretty much don't listen to the radio anymore. I just listen to y'all when I'm driving down the road or doing something, So I look forward to y'all's podcasts every week. I really do like them. So y'all are entertaining.
Appreciate
I look forward to doing this again in the future. Y'all just keep rocking on, man. I hope.
Man, we'll keep you as our gas and oil insider, keep us updated. We'll definitely bring you back on. And I think it was great. I think you shared some very interesting things that I didn't even think of going into this podcast, like the aftermath, the trickle down effect, or the ripple effect, as you were saying. How many products alone are based from petroleum and gas and oil product? I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
So it's not just gas prices. It's way more people. And so, no, I thank you, man. And dude, we're going to have to catch up, bro. It's been too long, but I'm glad we got to reconnect over this.
Oh, yeah, man.
The next time you listen to the Guilty Party podcast, it'll be with you on it. So how cool is that?
Cool.
Oh, yeah, man. Can't wait.
All right, brother.
All right. Well, appreciate it, Tim. Thanks for coming on. And we're signing out, guys.
Throw him on the backstage, bro, and we'll do our wrap-ups real quick. See you, Tim.
Bye, Tim.
Dude, that was interesting. A couple of things, man. One, there was quite the delay, and I'm impressed with both of us that we got through that. That was good.
Yeah.
Also, Mika. I'm just kidding.
Jeez.
Shout out to Tim. Tim,
I was like, I'll let that slide. today.
No, it's funny, dude. I called you Mika before I actually met you. It was back when you were touring in other bands before me and you.
Oh,
were
yeah.
I think it was like the first time, but I remember making that same thing. So when he said it, I was just in the back like, yes, yes, I'm not the only one. No, dude, Tim's a good guy, man. He opened my eyes to a lot of, good shit. Especially, well, I'm not good, but like, good mind-boggling, food for thought.
I mean,
basically.
it's one of those. It's like you really want to figure out what's the truth.
My bad, broski. No, it's all good too. We're just playing, brother.
It's just really nice to like have the actual information, like especially like when it comes down like the Keystone Pipeline's been a hot topic the last few years, and having a better understanding of why it's so important. It's not specifically just like that specific one, although it is. It's the best way to transport oil and gas is the most safest and economically way to do it. And for years we've been told, and fit all this stuff like, hey, it's bad for the environment, it's bad for everything. And it's like, well, it seems like that's not really the truth. Like it's gonna cost more and be worse for the environment to transport it via train, trucks, even boats and stuff.
It seems absurdly counterproductive. It doesn't make any sense. And so now what I want to do is, maybe later down the road, bring Tim on as we can update these things months from now, and see what's happening now. He kind of made some predictions. I agree with him where I think things are going to, get worse before they get better. But we'll kind of follow this. And obviously, as consumers, which is the entire world, we put gas in our cars. We'll be seeing it every day. But no, it's just interesting, man. Like the ripple effect, I think, is the one thing that it's got me thinking, right? It's like you trying to build your house, and then talking about all the steel and lumber costs and everything, dude, this hat, this shirt, this mic, all the costs are going to go up because they all get shipped and distribution is everything, and gas prices literally run the world. They're the difference, So it's just quite interesting, man. But yeah, I mean, besides that, how's your beard looking these days? Using that Medusa?
That stuff smells great.
Smells so good, doesn't it? Smells
so dude.
Good.
I can't wait to keep using it. I've always recommended.
Got it right next to the laptop.
What
Zeus?
What flavor is the green one?
It's Cerebus. Hey, bro, Google that Greek god for me real quick. Because for some reason, and I love Greek mythology, I am so lost on that one. But maybe he's the coolest one and I just don't know it. But, dude, I'll be damned if these things don't smell the best in the world. Medusa Beard Oil, baby. Facebook.com/Medusa Beard Oil. CO. Shameless.
Cerebus was actually, I thought it was the case. It's actually the three-headed dog from the underworld.
Yo, that's the one you got. How sick is that?
It works, man. I love it. I ended up giving a couple of my other beard oils to my brother because he's trying to grow his beard out.
Oh, well, okay. Well, maybe we can have him on a podcast talking about the struggles of beard growth.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in for the Gas and Oil episode with Tim Smith. We'll be reposting it to Apple Podcasts and our YouTube page and Spotify and whatnot. So yeah, check it out. Thank you for tuning in. If you got any questions, reach out to Tim Smith at Instagram at Tim Smith. And I'm sure he'll talk to you about it. Or you can just message us, always email us at wearetheguiltyparty@gmail.com, or hit us up on our Facebooks and Instagram, The Guilty Party Podcast. As always, thank you for listening tonight. This is The Guilty Party. You were one of us tonight, and we thank you so much for tuning in. Micah, got anything to tell them before we split?
That's it, y'all. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Signing off. Late.